Driving at night has always had a strange appeal for me. There's something peaceful about the dark, empty roads, the headlights cutting through the night, and the quiet solitude that the journey brings. It was one of those nights when I found myself on a long drive back home from a friend's house. The route was familiar, but it had been a few years since I'd traveled this way. I felt a sense of nostalgia mixed with a slight unease as I left the glow of the city behind and entered the rural stretch of the highway. The clock on my dashboard read 11:23 p.m. I turned on the radio to keep myself company, but the stations kept fading in and out. After a few minutes of static and garbled music, I turned it off, preferring the silence over the frustration of a poor signal. The only sounds were the hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of wind against the car. As I drove, I noticed the trees lining the road seemed to grow denser, their branches forming a tunnel that my car had to navigate through. The moonlight barely penetrated the thick canopy, casting eerie shadows that danced in the periphery of my vision. The further I drove, the less familiar the surroundings became. I was sure I hadn't taken a wrong turn, but the road felt different, almost like it was leading me somewhere new. My phone's GPS had lost signal, leaving me to rely on my memory and the faint road signs that appeared sporadically. I felt a growing sense of unease. The kind that creeps up on you slowly, like a chill that starts in your bones and works its way out. I dismissed it as just my mind playing tricks on me. After all, it was late, and I was tired. I decided to take a break and pulled over at a small clearing on the side of the road. Stepping out of the car, I stretched and took a deep breath of the cool night air. The silence was almost oppressive, the kind of silence that made you realize how truly alone you were. I checked my phone again, still no signal. With a sigh, I leaned against the car, staring into the dark forest that surrounded me. That's when I heard a faint sound, almost like a whisper. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but it persisted, growing louder and more distinct. It sounded like someone calling my name. I turned around, searching for the source, but there was nothing. Just the darkness and the trees. A shiver ran down my spine. I quickly got back into the car and locked the doors. My heart was pounding, and I tried to calm myself with deep breaths. It was just my imagination, I told myself. The isolation and darkness were playing tricks on me. I started the car and got back on the road, eager to leave the unsettling clearing behind. I stepped out of the car, hoping to find a hint of civilization. The forest loomed around me, and the air was thick with an unsettling stillness. As I walked a few steps away from the car, I heard the whispering again, clearer this time. It was definitely my name. Fear gripped me as I realized it was coming from the forest. I turned back towards the car, and that's when I saw her. The woman in white was standing next to the driver's side door, her face obscured by her hair. She was motionless, her presence radiating an inexplicable dread. My heart raced, and I took a step back, unable to tear my eyes away from her. "Who are you?" I managed to croak out, my voice trembling. She didn't respond. Instead, she lifted her head slowly, revealing hollow, dark eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. It was as if she was trying to speak, but the words were lost in the void between us. I stumbled backward, tripping over a root and falling to the ground. Pain shot through my ankle, but the adrenaline kept me moving. I scrambled to my feet and ran towards the car, but she was gone. The car door was wide open, and the interior light cast an eerie glow. Desperation took over. I got back into the car, slamming the door shut and locking it. My breathing was ragged, and I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. I tried the ignition one more time, praying for the car to start. Miraculously, the engine roared to life, and the headlights flickered on. I floored the accelerator, speeding down the road as fast as I could. The trees whipped by in a blur, and I kept checking the mirrors, half expecting to see her standing in the middle of the road. The whispers grew louder, filling the car with an otherworldly echo. My mind was racing. I needed to find a way out, to escape this nightmare. As I rounded a bend, I saw the faint glow of a gas station sign in the distance. Relief washed over me, and I headed towards it, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I pulled into the gas station, the fluorescent lights providing a stark contrast to the darkness I had just escaped. I parked the car and ran inside, the bell above the door chiming as I entered. The clerk looked up from his magazine, his expression one of mild curiosity. "You okay?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. I nodded, struggling to catch my breath. "Yeah, just car trouble. Can I use your phone?" He pointed to an old payphone in the corner. I fumbled for change and dialed the number for a tow truck. As I waited for someone to pick up, I glanced out the window. The road was empty, the forest a dark, foreboding presence in the distance. The tow truck arrived within the hour, and the driver was a burly man with a friendly demeanor. He hooked up my car and offered me a ride to the nearest town. As we drove away, I couldn't help but feel a lingering unease. I glanced back one last time and saw her standing at the edge of the gas station's light, watching me leave. The ride to town was silent, the driver sensing my need for quiet. When we arrived, I checked into a motel, grateful for the safety of four walls and a locked door. As I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the image of her hollow eyes and the whispers that still echoed in my mind. The next morning, I contacted a mechanic to look at my car. He found nothing wrong with it, no explanation for why it had stopped working. It was as if the car itself had been under some malevolent influence. I drove home with a sense of dread that I couldn't fully explain. To this day, I avoid driving at night, especially on that stretch of road. The memory of the woman in white haunts me, a constant reminder that some roads are better left untraveled.